Hello, darling. Okay. Yes, rename yourself to Vandita. Hi, Namrata.
Hi, Chetan.
I'm going to make you the admin. Hi, Kanish. Can you hear me?
Hi.
Hi, good to meet you finally.
Am I audible?
Yes, loud and clear.
Yeah.
I'm just, my colleague Namrata is here with us. I'm just making her the admin.
Yeah, it's fine now. I think there was a little bit more volume.
Yeah, 1 minute. Make host. All right. You can let everybody in. We'll just do the usual, wait for a couple of minutes and then get started.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thanks for joining, Kanish. Appreciate your taking the time.
My pleasure.
I saw your email. I've got the PowerPoint. So we'll keep all of that stuff. And yeah,
Well, that's just one part of it. I think that that's the most useful part for first time writing.
definitely.
Are you in the hills? I can't hear you now.
Chetan, you are on mute.
I
Okay.
said, sorry. I said, unfortunately, not today. You can see I have an AC right here. So we don't have any ACs in the hills. We barely have fans. So yeah. But this is a very interesting group. We've had a lot of momentum already. And
How many people?
the total strength of the FDC is 60 people this time. 60, right? Number
50?
Yeah. And usually we see about 2/3 turning up in any such interaction. So I think 40, 45 people should turn up.
That's also not bad. 40, 45 is good.
Yeah. So earlier it used to be lower interaction because we used to do it for free. But then since we've started charging money, asking money for the Chirag school as a donation, people, only serious people then come on board. So
yeah, I think we should have more Q&A, like a longer Q&A session, because there must be like so many writers, aspiring writers wanting to, know more about agenting publishing, whatever you want to do. I always believe in interactive sessions and not preparing at all.
Yeah, we can. I'm curious about some of the questions I shared with you. So we can maybe edit that question list down.
No,
but
they're fine. I should give shorter spots, whatever works.
Yeah, we can always shorten our Q&A and keep it more as open to people. Yeah.
What's happening with your book? I think we come back and forth on your book. Lots of promise in that.
We'll chat separately about that. So let me just get. Is everybody here? Are we looking like a good number? I think people will keep joining as we keep going. Namrata, keep letting them in. So we're at 20 now. All right. So we are recording this too. Yes. Excellent. So let me start by the quick introduction of Kanishk. So I think a lot of you would probably already be familiar with Kanishka Gupta. I'm sure many of us would have even written to him in the past. But I'd like to start and invite Kanish to this session with a quick Q&A. So Ganesh Gupta is a very well-known literary agent, writer, and publishing commentator based out of New Delhi. His agency, Writer Side, is acclaimed in the media to be a key player in South Asian publishing. Many writers cite titles have featured in the best-selling charts. Features author Anish Salim, who won India's 3 most prestigious literary prizes, which is Sahitya Academy Award, Crossword Book Award, and Hindu Literary Prize. His author Avni Doshi made it to the shortlist for the Booker Prize and for Burnt Sugar, Girl in White Cotton. Most recently, Tomb of Sand by Gitanjali Sri and translated by by Rockwell.
Easy Rockwell.
Daisy Rockwell, Rosie Rockwell, sorry about that. Daisy Rockwell, that was again an International Booker Prize winner, the first for India. Along with that, his publishing endeavors, he's also curated a globally acclaimed series for Scroll.in, Publishing and the Pandemic. And of course, he's highly respected and very sought after in the world of publishing and writing. So thank you so much for making the time for us, Kanishka.
My pleasure, and thank you for inviting me for this session.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we had planned, folks, was as our usual practice that we would start with a set of regular Q&A that would happen between Kanishka and me. And then we'll move to the Q&A with you folks. What I'm going to do is, because Kanishka is suggesting this, I'm going to short circuit some of my questions and keep them really, really, maybe just 2 or 3, and then open it up to the Q&A, faster. So we get more time for your Q&A instead of being distracted by my questions. So, but I did want to ask a couple of things. First is, what are 3 things in a submission that really bug you?
Like submission hygiene is very important. There are authors who just, WhatsApp me and they want to have a call without even sharing any material with me. Some of them will share, links to their random write-ups and blog posts, and they're like, do you see a book in this? So that's a strict no.
Right.
Even if you're well known, even if you have published successfully in the past, you must follow submission guidelines of an agent. So, for fiction, we look at synopsis, 3 chapters, and if you're interested in reading more, we'll call for the entire manuscript. In non-fiction, it depends on your expertise and how well known you are. As a journalist or anyone who's like written about the subject,
Right.
That is part of the book. And I normally sell non-fiction on proposal and adamant about sample chapters. So that's the biggest turn off for me. Number 2, I would say authors, like some authors are like debut writers think they've written the next, big thing, next god of small things. And, this is unlike anything we've read in the past, anything that have been published, by Indian publishers. So, and I know this sounds cliched because a lot of publishing professionals keep complaining about this, but it keeps happening. It's happening to me even now after putting in more than 11 years in publishing. So, which is the third big turn off for me is that I think the subject, a lot of people think their story, their personal life is interesting or big enough to be, shared with readers, whether it's in the form of a memoir or, a fictionalized sort of a version. So I think that is something that is very off-putting. Like so many people wrote to me during pandemic with proposals for their pandemic experiences. So I think authors should kind of do some research on the kind of books that have already been published in the genre or in the space they are trying to write a book in, and not feel that everything that they do or everything that they experience has to be turned into a book or a novel or a work of non-fiction. So these are the 3 things mostly.
All right, great. And the flip side to that, has it ever happened that a submission was so compelling that you dropped everything for it and you just wanted to read that?
Not dropping everything. I mean, one has to do the regular mails and follow-ups and calls. But yeah, when Avni's draft came to me, I made sure that we read it overnight, because also we are insecure, because I'm competing with the Godwins of the world and like big agencies in the UK and US, and there are hundreds of well-reputed agencies. And now the scene is quite competitive in India also. You have some new agencies, very dynamic, very aggressive. So, I mean, and at the end of the day, we deal with the same set of people, so it's about how fast you get back to an author and how aggressively you pursue them and, pitch yourself and your services to them. So yes, we do leave everything aside in terms of like submissions and reading material. Like I did the same thing with Babu Bangladesh, the late Numair Atif Chaudhary's novel, and there are several works of fiction. And sometimes authors impose deadlines on agents that, it's with other agents also, and can you get back in 1 week, can you get back in 2 weeks, and it's very easy to gauge from like maybe one para or sometimes even one line in an email if a author can write or not. So yes, we do that. I've got back to authors overnight, in 2 days, in 3 days, and it has worked in my favor. And sometimes it doesn't work. I mean, sometimes they are very grateful. They'll talk to you, but then they'll also talk to 500 other agents, and then they'll get back 6 months down the line saying that, oh, but we found someone else. And then they'll stock, bullshitty responses. Thank you for your consideration, this and that. But even Rijula's book, Death in Shonagachi, again, I was nervous, because these writers, these novelists, they have access, they've studied creative writing internationally. Their mentors are well-known authors. They know people, they know publishers. So, one has to, be prompt with them, and also like give some feedback and, pitch oneself to them effectively. So yeah, but like regular work keeps happening. You can't stop working on the books you've already kind of agreed to represent, and authors who are publishing, around that time.
It's
Who have
really
already had books out.
It's really refreshing to hear this, because we just feel like literary agents are like all these, demigods who are sitting on their pedestals.
Actually, no.
And they're like dismissive of the common.
I look at everything, and if I see potential, I'll get back immediately, even if there is nothing in the body of the mail. In fact, Parimal Bhattacharya, who's now published 3 or 4 successful books, he's moved his backlist from Speaking Tiger to HarperCollins, and his latest work of non-fiction, he's unsung, but he's brilliant. This book, Field Notes from a Waterborne Land, with blurbs from Ram Guha, Jairam Ramesh. He's really good. So his first book on Darjeeling came to me like, please find attached my proposal. There was nothing in the body of the mail, and there were 2-3 attachments, and I ignored that submission for several months, and then I just happened to like open the attachment, and then I started reading it, and I was like, this guy is very talented. So sometimes we go back to badly put together proposals, but one has to submissions, query letters, but one has to follow some sort of guidelines, and try and like share a compelling query note.
Sure. Okay, great. That's very helpful. Last question from me, and then we'll open
there are query letters in that slide. So
yeah, so we'll go through the slides. Would you like to walk people through the slide and then do the Q&A?
Yeah, you can ask me questions, and then we can go through the slides. It's also a little snarky, because I don't want to like share everything from the slide, because it's based on like some article in Stroll that I wrote, but it's fun. So I mean, we can share that, but there's some very useful bits also.
Okay. My last question was, is it part of, is a literary agent expected to help you market your book? Is that part of how you
very gray area, Chetan? Matlab, one doesn't really, I can't really share the exact job description of a literary agent, because if someone is very well known, and if someone has published previously, and if they have access to publishers directly, then they will put pressure on you to do all these things. You had promised me JLF, or you had promised me this review, that review, get me this podcast, get me that podcast. So, but the sad thing is that as agents, as legit agents, we cannot charge commission for that. So what I have started doing is that if I feel the author is high maintenance, they will expect a lot of publicity, and they also have funds at their disposal, then I introduce them to freelance publicists. There are some very, very good freelance publicists in India. Rachna Kalra is one of them. Then Atika Gupta and Tanu Dogra, they are part of the same team. And then there's another one. I'll tell you, she used to be at HarperCollins. And then there are some digital firms also, like Rachna Kalra, like who's headed the marketing divisions of major publishing houses like Pan Macmillan and Oxford. Now she has her own firm. but she also ties up with Pragya Tiwari and her firm. I'm forgetting the name of the firm, and for social media. So in that case, I introduce authors to freelance publicists, and they are very good, and they also have a existing relationship with marketing teams of publishing houses, because no matter how much effort a publisher puts in, sometimes it's just not enough for authors, especially if the author is not a big enough author for the publisher. If lakhs and lakhs of rupees are not riding, uh, lakhs and lakhs unearned advance is not riding on the book. So, but yeah, sometimes I do, like, and sometimes, like, if the author doesn't have the money, and if they are getting very disillusioned with the way the book is getting promoted or not promoted, then I step in, and then I use my network and contact, because I've also done a lot of journalism. I've been writing for Scroll for I don't know how many years. I did some pieces for First Post also, and then I represent a lot of writers, like maybe close to 500 journalists. Many of them are like doing reviews, freelance reviews, or they are part of teams, retreat divisions of or retreat teams.
Right. Okay, great. So you mentioned Rachna Kalra, Pragya Tiwari. There was a third name I missed.
I'll just share the details. One sec. That's Pragya. One is Pragya. Pragya is for I'll just share the details.
All right, cool.
Just
While we're waiting, any questions you folks have, please put them in the chat and we can start the conversation, because now we're opening it up for the Q&A with Kanishka for all of you.
And there was another question about dealing with like how different it is to deal with like fiction and non-fiction writers. I think debut writers of fiction, they are very anxious. They're sometimes bordering neurotic, because the fiction market is very difficult. It is very difficult to get a debut novel, collection of stories, poetry noticed in India, let alone UK, US. So they are always on the edge, and the very good ones, they would like their books to be published by the premier literary imprints of MNCs like Fourth Estate and Hamish Hamilton and Context. So it's they are quite anxious. Literary writers also are quite anxious. Non-fiction writers not so much, but they worry about costs and the monies involved in like putting together their books, because some books require a lot of travel, research, travel overseas also, and access to libraries and documents and papers that entails cost. So
Right.
they have their own sets of problems and consideration. But I feel that like fiction writers are harder to deal with.
So Shravya, I think she's actually your client, but she's asked for fiction submissions. Do you still take up fiction work?
Shravya,
Bhinder,
but she has access to everyone, Shravya.
she's on this.
I'm open to fiction writers. She's very well known. She sells so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's here on the group, and she has this question for you.
One of my closest friends at Penguin. Yeah, we are open to fiction submissions. We are always.
Okay. Then you had a question, which was you had a statement which you made, which was very interesting, where you said that sometimes one paragraph or even one sentence is enough for you to know that a person writes well. And I'm relating that to this next question where Renu has asked, it seems like you don't encourage debut authors. That sounds like a contradiction to me. So how do you see that?
No, we encourage debut writers, but earlier, like 3-4 years ago, I used to, like maybe 4 years ago, I used to get back to everyone, and now we have a new response policy in place, which clearly mentions that if the author doesn't get a response from us in 3 months time, then they should consider the submission as rejected. So no, we encourage writers, but it's humanly not possible for me to read everything, to give feedback. Yeah, I mean, even if we feel that the author is not the submission is not well written, and if we gauge that from the query letter, we'll read 2-3 pages or maybe 4-5 pages. I can share instances with who asked this question?
Renu.
I can share instances with Renu, and I would like her response to that. I mean, I would like to know if she would read the submission in my place, because we are working on commission. Yeah, 15% commission hoti hai, sometimes 20 at the most. on the advances, which are paid in tranches, and those tranches have become way more lopsided after COVID. So, you know, you have to like, we get like in thousands per book, even if it's a big advance, if it will not be paid on signing, it will be spread over signing, delivery, publication. Some publishers are even paying 1 year after publishing and they are calling it an advance. This happens when the advance is like really big and then it is linked to the paperback publication of the book, you know. So you get a certain sum on publication, certain sum on, sorry, signing, delivery, publication, and then 1 year after the publication of the hardback edition or the paperback edition, whichever comes first, because, you know, they can't publish the paperback edition if the hardback edition hasn't sold out. If there are like thousands and thousands of hardback edition in stock, so it's very difficult. And I live off royalty income, you know. I mean, we are open to editorial, provided you know, authors, you know, make the first approach. And sometimes if I see a lot of promise in a book, like I'm working on 3 or 4 books, then but the submission is not good enough for representation or immediate pitching, then I introduce them to freelancers. So we are also we also have people on my team who work as ghostwriters. So it works, you know, because I mean, I find a ghostwriter for someone who I plan to, you know, take on as an author. So no, it's not being condescending or being contradictory. I mean, some submissions are just, one cannot go through them. It's not possible.
Fair enough. And just to give us a sense, how many submissions are we talking about in a month roughly that you have to do?
To be very honest, Chetan, मेरे पास अब unsolicited ज़्यादा आता नहीं है.
अच्छा, आपने अपनी वेबसाइट भी बंद कर दिया ना?
नहीं, अब मेरा हो गया वेबसाइट तैयार हो गया. So friend, a very close friend who's also in publishing, he's designed a website for me. It's very simple, but it's striking. I was having issues with the design. यार, I'll show you the design. तुम खुद देख लेना कितने बकवास हैं जो 2 साल लग रहे थे मेरे को.
Sure.
Now I have a website, but my Twitter handle, my Instagram handle, there I have given the details that, you know, like I've given my email. I know it's not the best way to go about it, but the website is going to be live in like less than a week. Okay.
Ram has a question saying, how do I get your attention if I've written a non-fiction book in which I have expertise, but I am not well known?
Oh, that's okay. That's fine. I mean, I'll go by the proposal and sample chapters. And also there's this first problem of first mover advantage in non-fiction. So I would encourage Ram to maybe do some research and see if there are any existing books on the subject. But yeah, it doesn't matter if you are not well known or like don't have like lakhs of followers. We represent debut non-fiction all the time, and it sells more than debut fiction. I'll show you some of the books. This is a debut non-fiction. It's doing very well. Oh,
yeah, I can see you and hear you.
Yeah, this book by M.R. Sharan. I mean, he's not famous, but he has huge respect amongst his peers in this space. You know, he's been doing field work in Bihar for over 10 years. He has a PhD from like a Ivy League university. So, and he's a good writer. He published a fiction with me long ago, like in 2012.
Cool. Next question is from Shalini. She's asked, do agents take up works only for translation or screen adaptation rights as well? I've been traditionally published a book that released recently, unagented submission. I hold the rights to these. Can I pitch this to literary agents? Or
yeah. So you should reach out to, if you're looking to pitch to film agents, you should reach out to Siddharth Jain of Story Inc.
Story Inc. Yeah, we've had him on this session actually.
Yeah, there are other agents also.
Yeah.
There's Tulsia.
There's Kwan.
Tulsia, Kwan, Matter. Kwan is primarily looking at their own clients, you know, like, I mean, they represent a lot of directors, actors, screenwriters. So if a director, actor, screenwriter is interested in something, in a book, in commissioning a book, then they will reach out to the publisher. And if they get to know from the publisher that the rights are not with them, then they will reach out to the author agent. And if there is no agent, then they will reach out to the author directly. Yeah, translation is very difficult unless you've written a book which has sold like over 50,000 copies. You know, like the Indian language market is very brutal. I mean, they don't take on fiction. I mean, even if it's like Agni Doshi has only been translated into Malayalam. Marathi. and Harper is publishing the Hindi edition on their own. So like a Booker shortlisted author doesn't have, like a Malayalam edition, doesn't have a Gujarati edition, doesn't have a, same applies to a lot of other books. Unless you're Arundhati Roy, then you get published in 25 languages in India also.
Yeah. Next question Sailesh has asked is, how much part does vocabulary play in decision taking for a literary agent or a publisher?
No, I mean, vocabulary, grammar, you mean to say grammar?
Well, his question just says vocabulary.
So ideally, I mean, the submission should not be too verbose, and the basics of writing should be in place. But I will not reject a book if there are typos in it, or if it's badly formatted. If it's brilliant writing, if it's good writing, if it's good storytelling, if it's an important work of non-fiction, it's something that has not been written before, something that has that shines a light on an aspect, or some historical aspect that has not been written about, then I will ignore typos and grammatical errors.
Sure. Next is, what is your take on genre fiction currently, fantasy, sci-fi, or mystery, specifically to India?
Zero. Everyone is interested in UK, US, international writers in these genres, but then there are exceptions. But those books don't do well in India, despite the authors winning awards. I discovered a science fiction writer 2 years ago, Lavanya Lakshmi Narayanan. Now she's all over the place now. She was shortlisted for the Locus Prize. Now she is represented internationally by a very major agency specializing in sci-fi. I retained the South Asia rights for the new works also. You know, these big deals, translations in French and all, but has the India edition sold? Not that much. She won 2 prizes. You know, she won the TOI Author Award, Fiction of the Year. She shared it with Megha Majumdar. And then the second prize, she won that WOW prize for best fiction.
Right.
But no, horror, fantasy, not even young adult and children's. Everyone wants to read your, international names, your Stephen Kings and John Greens and Dan Browns.
What about?
I don't know of any successful fantasy novel that has been published like by an Indian writer, written by an Indian writer. No fantasy, no science fiction, but there are some very good science fiction writers. Samit Basu, this guy, Pramit Das, who's again published internationally, but I think Penguin published his book in India. Lavanya Lakshmi Narayan. There are many, even Gautam Bhatia, who's also a very well-known lawyer.
Cool. There are 2 more formats about which there are questions.
There is a horror novel that Penguin published last year, which has done very, very well. It has sold thousands and thousands of copies. So that's probably the first success story in the genre.
Is that Neil De Silva?
No. Nidhi. I'm just forgetting her surname. I'll share the details of the book.
Okay. Then it says, do you accept proposals for novellas, and are you accepting children's chapter book stories?
Yeah. Children is very hard to sell. Very, very hard. Anything in the children's space is very hard to sell, but yeah, we are open to it.
Okay.
But after COVID and because of, paper shortage and rising costs and this rise in the GST on paper, ink and whatnot, publishers also have to bear the GST on royalties, like 12% GST. It's difficult to place books that have a very strong visual element, but yeah, it happens. I mean, I do it. I mean, if it's exceptional, then I do it. We are open to everything.
Okay.
We are genre agnostic.
Then it says, hi Kanish, nice to meet you. Is it possible to have an Indian a literary agent and a foreign literary agent?
Yeah, happens all the time.
And how does it work? This is Subi Taba from Itanagar.
Yeah, it happens all the time. So, even Avni's book, I discovered Avni. I sold the India rights, South Asia rights, but she's represented globally by Qantas Literary Agency. In Daisy's case, I represent her globally. Yeah, I mean, in fact, authors can have 3 or 4 different agents. They can have an agent for South Asia. They can have an agent for UK, US. But so sometimes the problem occurs when the UK agent or the international agents are adamant on keeping world rights, because a lot of international publishers, especially UK publishers, they like to retain Commonwealth rights. which includes South Asia and Australia, New Zealand. US publishers are more open. They frankly they don't care about the Indian market. So if you have a US agent, then he or she will be very open to splitting rights.
Okay.
And if the book has originated in India or has been like was first pitched, was discovered and pitched by an Indian agent, then I would recommend going with one agency in the UK, US, because these agents also they have their own sub-agents. So US agent will be working with a well-known sub-agent for the UK markets and vice versa.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then there is
And
what
also
are the
foreign agencies work with a lot of. They have many sub-agents. So they have sub-agents in different countries for different countries: France, Germany, Japan, China, and many other countries.
cool. What are some of the reasons that previously published and unagented authors sign up with a literary agent later?
Previously published. So initially nobody well known or even like a very well like very talented came to me. You know, Anis Salim was like a sort of a fluke. But as I started growing in stature and like developing my contacts in the media and festival circuit, and also like generally like even like getting more well known and accomplished editors on my team, I started getting a lot of editors, started getting a lot of queries and interest from published well-known writers. So I think there can be many reasons. Debut writers would like to come to agents, of course. Well-known writers, if they've had a bad experience with publishing their previous books, if they feel that, and some of the really well-known writers, and I'm talking about public figures, they are very embarrassed to discuss monies with publishers. So they want someone to handle the negotiation bit, even if there are many a times I am approached by public figure celebrity writer after they have said yes to an offer and they want me to be involved in negotiation. Many of them are approached by publishing houses, but they would like to hire the services of an agent to get the best possible deal, or to also like advise them on which publisher, which editor to go with.
Right.
So
Right. Which is the most popular genre right now, according to you? I know it'll be non-fiction, but within non-fiction, anything?
Non-fiction, or business, mind, body, spirit, self-help, political biographies, and then there are these. If there's anything which is unexpected and also like very well done and researched, like this book on single women desperately seeking Shahrukh by Shreyana Bhattacharya, which is selling like hotcakes, it will find takers. But normally I see that. Political biographies and books that have an element of self-help, so that
those do well. Okay.
quite well.
Next is, would you recommend the manuscript be edited by a freelance editor before it is pitched to you? If yes, can you recommend some freelance editors? So you mentioned you might have.
I would recommend a freelance editor if an agent has shown some interest in the book, because otherwise they charge a lot. I mean, the freelance editors will charge a lot more than they'll charge close to, like, the good freelance editor, they'll charge 1.5 lakhs for a work of fiction, and it can go up to 2 lakhs.
Yeah.
So I think if an agent has shown interest, then you can consider hiring a freelance editor. Like I said, I connect a lot of my authors to freelance editors if I feel that the book needs a lot of work, and I've been able to place all of them after the edits were done.
V. Gangan, I think your question is already answered, where he said that sci-fi is better published outside India. Sneha has asked, how do you find authentic?
No, but if you're looking at sci-fi, I think you should approach Polomi Chatterjee, who used to be at Hachette. Now she's moved to HarperCollins. She's very interested in building a sci-fi list. Polomi Chatterjee is now at HarperCollins. There's another editor who's very, very interested in sci-fi, horror, genre fiction. Her name is Prerna Gill. She's also at HarperCollins. Hachette, of course, publishes the Golan's anthology of science fiction writings, edited by Tarun Sain. So you can approach Hachette also. See, these books will get picked up. Your question was about having big bona fide bestsellers in these categories. So we don't have those.
Okay, great. Yeah. Manjula Padmanabhan also is involved with the Golan's book. Yeah, she teaches for us. Okay.
Involved as in, she must have contributed essays. Sorry, stories.
No, she's helping. She's kind of helping Tarun with the whole putting the book together. So she's also curating.
There's no harm in approaching Speaking Tiger also.
Right.
They'll be open. They are open to offbeat stuff. For genre fiction, who else? One sec. Crime. One you can for crime you can approach everyone. If it's a very well done crime novel, publishers will be interested. But again, they haven't done very well in India.
The next question is, how do you find an authentic literary agent in the US?
There's practically there's so many well-known agents in the US, but there's a book, writer's man. What's the book called? Writer's Manual or something.
I know that pw.org is that poets and writers website. They have a list of literary agents, so you can definitely get something there.
No, I know the name of that book, and that book is updated every year.
Okay.
So I'll send the name to you. And maybe
If you can share that, then we'll share it in the group.
Otherwise, like Publishers Marketplace is where you can find the names and contact details of all the agents, but that's for trade people, no? I mean,
Yeah.
announce deals, then it comes with a huge cost. I mean, for the membership is quite expensive.
Yeah.
One sec, I'll just find the name of this book.
Sure, please.
One sec, right, guys.
Is it Writer's Market?
No.
The Writer's Guide
No.
comes out every year.
No, I'll have to share the. I'll have to.
ठीक है, आप उसको you can look at it and you can tell us later.
Yeah, but that's very well known.
Right. The next
Writer's
question.
Handbook. Just look it up. Sorry, it's Writer's Handbook, I think.
Writer's Handbook. Okay. The next question is, what's the scope for ESG related non-fiction books in India?
It's what?
ESG. Do you know what ESG is? I have no idea what ESG is. Sheetal, can you help us with what is ESG?
Poetry. Yeah, poetry, very difficult. Yeah, unless you're translating a very famous classical poet and yeah, but like I know that there are publishing houses. So there was a question about poetry. So
Right.
I'll for that first.
Okay,
Sure.
sure.
The next question after this. Yeah. So debut poetry, very difficult. Anthologies maybe like this new anthology of Indian poets by Jeet Thile is doing really well. I'm told it has sold close to 4,000 or 5,000 copies, and it's a high-end, high-priced book. But debut poetry is next to impossible only. So I would say like someone like Kartika VK, she is big on poetry. She's discovered and published some of the best poets, contemporary poets. They are allowed to publish only one poetry book in a year. And so there is huge competition, and there are well-known poets also, and that their poets have published successfully in the past who write, who come to them with their new books.
Okay.
But Speaking Tiger, you can try. Penguin is going to be very difficult. Hachette, no. Pan, no. I know Bloomsbury and Pan Macmillan don't do poetry at all. But you can reach out to the independent
the two
poetry. There are many. So
yeah,
I'm going to just send you the list. Huh?
The two big names that we've heard of, one is called Hava Kol and the other is Red River.
No, I'll tell you. I have more names.
Okay.
I have the list.
Cool.
So there's Havakal, of course, but I would choose a paper wall over Havakal. Paper wall is run by Hemant Devate. Copper Coin is well known. Sarabjit Gata. So the advantage of working with some of them is that most of them are poet turned, publishing entrepreneurs. So paper wall, Hemant Devate, who runs paper wall. Sarabjit Gata, Copper Coin. Then of course, then there is this. You mentioned another name, no? The Delhi-based poetry press.
Red River?
Yeah, Red River. Then Havakal. Then there is Yoda Press. Arpita Das is publishes poetry, so she's open to doing debut poetry, and she's a good editor. There's a new publishing poetry publishing house that has come up in the south in Chennai, and K. Sri Lata is part of the team. She's part of the editorial team. I'll share the name. Ekla, no, I'm forgetting the name of the publishing house.
Okay. So that's very helpful. ESG, Sheetal has clarified, stands for Environment, Science, and Governance. So,
Yeah, all of them will be open to them, to books in the genre. If it's done well, if it's an important book, all of them. Who would be more interested than in this genre? All of them will be interested. You should try Ajita GS of Context, Context Westland, because they're back in business after, getting funding from Pratilipi. So Ajita GS, Swati Chopra of HarperCollins. I will be interested in all these books. Oh, sorry, books in this genre.
Right.
Will be interested in this genre. Krishan Chopra of Bloomsbury. Sivapriya, you can try. She's acquiring both fiction and non-fiction.
Sivapriya is actually on the session at the end of this, in September, FDC September.
Oh, she's very good. Huh?
Bloomsbury, yeah.
Yeah. So,
cool. We'll jump to the next question.
Speaking Tiger is big on these books. Huh? Speaking Tiger. Ravi Singh, Renuka Chatterjee, who's the vice president there, and who's also commissioning books.
Right. Renuka had also set up a lit agency and then went back into.
That was like, I don't know, a decade ago.
Yeah. Okay. Quick question here, and this is a very important question because I think a lot of people struggle with this. How do you judge the credibility or authenticity of a literary agent? Because we repeatedly hear instances where a manuscript is
past sales. Yeah.
No, but one thing specifically I want to ask. This is an add-on question. Sometimes people approach a literary agent, and I've never heard this for you, of course, but the agent asks for money. What's your take on that?
Big red flag. I know who you're talking about. I mean, it's common knowledge in the industry, but I want to get into name calling. They also charge a fee just to represent you. They charge a fee to pitch it to publishers. And then they, on top of that, some of these agencies are charging 20% commission, And while the fee is very nominal, I've seen these contracts. They'll charge 10,000, 15,000. But it's no, you cannot charge because an agent makes his living off the commission. They make money only if the author gets a deal from a publisher, B, the author is happy enough with the deal to take things forward, And I'm open to the idea of like varying your commission. If the book needs a lot of work and the agent has put in the work, so if and the author is willing to make the commission even 25%, jabki it's not the norm, then it's fine. But it has to be linked to the commission. It ranges from 10 to 20. I still agree to 10%. If the author is like very, very dear to me, or if this is a book which has a lot of promise, but I'm now moving towards 20, but the standard is 15.
Okay.
The biggest red flag is fee, direct, like charging fee, and you can see their past sales, or you can just Google the name of the agent and then go on the books, that search and see if they have been acknowledged in important books. Because this is a reputational driven business. I mean, even if I get like a funding of $1 million or maybe $5 million, and if publishers make fun of me, they don't believe in me, then nothing is going to happen. You can't do anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
thank you for that.
To earn one's reputation by like supplying good books and authors to publishers over a long period of time.
Right. Namrata has asked this question for a second time. 5 things that make you pick a submission. Is there, even if not 5, I know you've answered the first one sort of.
I mean, it's subjective, but I mean, basics have to be in place, and obviously storytelling, the writing, the subject. It can be a very basic story, but brilliantly told, then we'll be sold. And the other way around also, that it's like a very new kind of writing, new kind of space. In nonfiction, a lot depends on the author's credentials, their research, their following, their credibility. Like for instance, one of the reasons why Vinay Sitapathi's Half-Line did so well, thousands and thousands of copies, is because, he had access to Narasimha Rao's papers, So there's so many things that will make like works of fiction and non-fiction. Fiction is also subjective. But in my agenting career, I've been able to pitch 95% of the works of fiction I've taken on, maybe close to 100 only. I mean, we fail 2 or 3 times in a year, like 2 times with fiction and maybe one or 2 times with non-fiction.
Cool. Next question is how
It's
many?
very, very difficult to sell short story collections.
Right.
I would say selling short story collections is as difficult as selling poetry, almost as difficult as selling poetry. So I do only one short story collection in a year. Very difficult.
Okay. Sailesh has a question. How many copies sold does a publisher consider to be a successful book?
Also depends on the kind of monies they paid the author. Now, if they paid someone like 50 lakhs, that they do for like really, really big books, and the book has sold 20,000 copies, it's a dud. But if they've paid someone 2 lakhs or 3 lakhs, and if it has sold 10,000 copies in hardback priced at 699, 799, it's a success. It's subjective, but I would say anything selling fiction selling over 3,000 copies, 3 to 5,000 copies is considered good. I won't say bestseller. For bestseller status, it has to sell 10,000 copies. I'm talking about literary fiction.
Right.
3 to 5, 10 is a bestseller. For non-fiction, again 10 to 15 or maybe 20. For mass market commercial fiction, I would say 30, 40,000, like 25, 30, maybe more.
Okay,
Because
great.
a lot of it is a function of price point and the advances.
Got it. Got it. Lee has a question.
Poetry, even 750 copies is fabulous. 750, 1,000 copies.
Is a lot. Yeah. I guess it would be genre dependent. Okay, Lee's next question is, will a lit agent shop a manuscript to her close publishing contacts before replying to an author regarding representation?
But that's very unethical.
Okay.
But that means that they don't have faith in their own agenting abilities. I mean, some of my closest friends are like top publishing professionals. I'll never do that. I mean, I start like discussing the books with them, like interesting submissions with them. I tell them that, I'll be sending you something very exciting. But if they start discussing, showing the manuscripts to editors and publishers, then they are getting these publishers to do their jobs. They are the literary agent at the first reader.
Okay. Mehek, your question, the answer is 10 to 20% of author royalty. Shravya has asked a question. Do you always need the complete MS to place a fiction title?
Fiction, yeah, mostly complete, unless the author is obscenely well known. I don't think I've placed fiction on the basis of. I placed Anis Salim's novel. So Penguin did a 2-book deal, The Small Town Sea, and there was a second book. And then Small Town was not part of it. No. So I moved Anis Salim's Sahitya Academy Award winning book, The Blind Lady's Descendants, to Penguin. And then Penguin did a 2-book deal. So Blind Ladies and whatever next he writes. And he wrote Small Town Sea, which did considerably well.
Okay.
But sometimes it's counterproductive for the author. Like I have pitched fiction on the basis of chapters, and I almost, I was on the verge of like failing completely. And
I know with Arjun, you got him a...
because I mean, some editors, they show interest, but they ask for the full MS. Some of them cannot convince their larger team, which includes, salespeople, CEOs, and marketing people, to make an offer, and then they are forced to reject it. So, once you've pitched a manuscript, then you cannot just go back and redo the whole thing. So fiction, I would say, finish the whole thing.
I know that for Arjun, you got him a 3-book deal, both in India and the US, for Arjun Raj Gain. Yeah.
Yeah, Gain was because it was a trilogy, no? So I got him a 3-book deal on the basis of 1 book.
The first book. Yeah.
And the US rights were sold by HarperCollins. I don't know what happened. I think HarperCollins, or I don't know. Yeah, I think that there was a US deal, multi-book US deal with a very well-known crime publisher that's now part of Source Books, but I don't know how that happened. Yeah.
Okay. Next question, any indication on time frame from approaching a literary agent to getting published?
So I've already said that if you send me something and if I'm not interested, then I will not respond only. So if you haven't heard back in 3 months, and if you and even after sending reminders, then it's a no.
But assuming that you buy it, then how long does it take?
Okay, yeah. So I'll tell you, that also varies, so like sometimes I can sell a book in like 2 days. Sometimes it takes me like months. And that's also because we want to try and get the best possible deal. So if I send out a very promising book to publish to like 7 or 8 publishers, and I get an offer from one publisher within a day, it may not be possible for the other editors to get back, publishers to get back immediately. So, but I need to wait, because you need to hear back from everyone. Sometimes we are waiting for the UK US counterparts of an Indian publishing house to get back, to see if they can convince UK to do a joint thing. In that case, the wait can go on for like months. So last year I sold a very famous writer's short story collection and unwritten novel to Hachette UK and India, but we made the other publishers wait for months on end because we wanted, because the UK publisher had shown interest. His name is Shehan Karnatilaka. He wrote Chinaman, the Sri Lankan writer. So
Right.
that process took very, very long, endlessly long. So it depends, and also depends on what the other editors are doing, editing. How does their schedule look like? What if someone is on leave? What
Right.
if someone is like busy editing a very, very important book? So it varies. I would say for debut fiction and non-fiction, both non-fiction will take less time, but for debut fiction, if it's a very, very promising fiction, then it can take anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks to maybe 3 months. And I would encourage authors to let their agents take their time if they get interest from a lot of publishers.
Okay, couple of closing questions.
Yeah.
KK has one, which is, what is the sweet spot pricing for fiction book of 60 to 70,000 words? Is there an answer to that?
I mean, now the thing is, publishers are moving to paperback even for the big literary fiction titles, because it's impossible to publish hardbacks in this scenario.
Yeah.
The shortage of paper, printing costs going up. And why would you want a like a book to be published at $7.99, $8.99 and then get priced out of the market? I would say for a 60, 70,000 word, depending on the genre, for fiction, for commercial fiction, even 350 is fine. 399 is also fine. If it's one of those well-written, commercial novels. For literary fiction, I would say paperback 499 and hardback 599 is also fine.
Okay. Okay, guys, let's call I'm going to draw a line below Mehak's last question. So 2 more questions. Shalini has a question. Can blogs be converted to books, non-fiction genre, self-help genre?
I think that, yeah, I have done that in the past. I mean, books can emerge from blogs, but I mean, there has to be a narrative in place, I think.
Right.
I mean, if your blog has a overarching theme, and if it has a good readership, then it can be converted into a book. But I mean, there has to be some sort of narrative coherence and continuity.
All right, great. And the last question, what is the difference between the way a publisher looks at an MS from a writer versus from an agent? Because you can also do direct submissions in India. So what changes?
So a publisher will be more open to raw manuscript than an agent, huh? So because because publishers, they have their editorial teams and they can even get someone to rewrite it, but I have to keep in mind a lot of things, how much work does it involve, like for me as an agent and for my editorial team. B, if it needs a freelance editor. A, will an author be open to spending so much money? Everybody doesn't have the capacity to spend 50,000, 1 lakh, or even 25,000. And B, will I be able to place the book even after it's edited? Because then it's a lot of pressure on us, I mean,
right.
We recommend the author to an editor,
right.
and they pay the monies, and then what if nothing happens? So I would say a publisher will be more open to, and the publishers will also be open to signing on the basis of nothing, I mean, you may end up meeting a publisher somewhere for coffee, then suggest an idea, you send them a link, and then they say the contract next week. We can't do that, because we are not so high up in this whole ecosystem. We need stuff which is good because we have to convince someone else. So I would say I expect a good standard of, of like writing submission, even though we edit a lot sometimes,
Okay, cool. Well, thanks so much. This has been fantastic. I think we've gained a lot from your insights. So thank you.
I hope so. And thank you so much for having me over.
All right. And if you want to sign out, you can, because we are just going to chat about the writing for everybody else now. But if you want to hang around and just listen in, you're welcome to. So yeah. So, but I just thought we can chat briefly, 5 minutes, talk about writing. How's it going? We're about 34 people here now. So how's the writing going? Has the, have the writing prompts helped, or have Have the, has the WhatsApp conversations helped, and have people been able to write? I mean, have people been able to write good amounts? The numbers are looking a little slow, but sometimes people don't update the tracker. So the number right now is showing 1,72,000 words. That's just about 2,500 words a piece. So it's not a lot, but or 3,000 words a piece maybe. So not a huge number, but still, any insights, thoughts, conversation, folks? Michelle is saying the WhatsApp chat is inspiring and insightful. Shalini has asked for Kanishk's details. Kanishk's email is very, very easily available. It's what, Kanishk500@gmail.com, right, Kanishk? Are you there still? I can share that we'll share that in the WhatsApp group, Namrata, if you can check. But it's quite, his email is in the public domain. It's not hard to find. Anyone else have a question or have a comment? Nobody? Cool. All right. So one last week, then we'll be chatting with Shravya, our very own. Now we can say that. And yeah, looking forward. So last week, put your nose to the paper, put your keys to the keypad, and get going and try and make the most that you can out of this last 7 days that we have available to us. Yeah. Lots of comments here. Huge learning. True on the thought of updating the tracker. I have not updated. The word count is deceptive. There is editing. Yeah, sure. Yeah, cool. Sham is saying he's completed 22,000 words. That's very nice. So lots of good action, lots of healthy action. Yes, Michelle has shared Kanishk 500, Kanishk with the A, 500@gmail.com. So that's his email address for everybody who wants to reach out to him. All right. Kanishka is a very hard man to get a hold of. So I'm also really thrilled that he was able to make the time for our session, and he answered so many questions. So yes, I think in many ways we're quite lucky. Cool. Shall we call it a day then? If there's no further questions, yeah. The word prompt should keep going as before. You already have, I think today's was Sagar. Sagar had nominated KK. So KK, have you nominated somebody else? Are you here?
Not yet. I have not nominated yet.
So please nominate somebody else. Maybe we can pick somebody from this group. Maybe Subi or Nupur or somebody else. And then we can go from there. All right. All right. Thanks then, everyone. Take care, and we'll speak. And remember, next time the session is going to be from 5 to 6:15, because we'll spend about 45 minutes with Shravya, and then we'll do a half-an-hour closing session. And since it's the 31st, we'll just close on that day itself. All right. Okay. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.